Welcome back to another video. In this video, I just wanted to talk about sort of my journey and my transformation, because what I post on my Instagram is obviously very current to like my lifestyle right now and what I'm doing, all of my training and my dieting, but this has not necessarily been the way I've lived for the last 5 years since I've started lifting and I've really got into fitness and taking care of my health. So really, I just wanted to share from my perspective, my story and my background on how I got so passionate about fitness, self-improvement, discipline, all of that stuff, because it's definitely been a long time, like 5 years. It's a pretty solid chunk of my life and it's very important to me. And so if I can share my story with you and inspire you to maybe start your own journey or keep going, that brings me so much value and fulfillment. So just jumping right into it, I really started lifting back in 2020. I was a sophomore in high school and I really just wanted to get bigger for football. That was like my main goal. I was like, I'm gonna be playing varsity football. I wanna put on size. I'm pretty tall, I'm like 6'4", so I was skinny in a sense, being like kind of lanky. I think I was sitting around 180, 185, and I really wanted to bulk up and get big. So early 2020, that was my main goal, was like just get big, which led me into sort of dirty bulking. And throughout COVID, this is when I was consistently training. I didn't really have access to weights. I was kind of just doing resistance band work, and I had some like plates and adjustable dumbbells, but no real gym for honestly the first year of my journey. But I was just eating so much food. Like this was during COVID. I had nothing else to do. I would lift, eat, and play Warzone. That's it. It was honestly peak life, but it definitely was not the smartest approach. Again, I was 16, 17 at the time. Didn't really know what I was doing. I was just thinking, okay, if I lift more and eat more, surely I'll get bigger. Which I did get bigger, but it just came at the expense of some fat that I put on. And after that year, from about 2020 to mid 2021, when I entered my last year in high school, and I was, back into sports because I've been an athlete my whole life. So playing football and basketball really took up a whole lot of time. I wasn't really consistent in the gym or with my diet. So I was fully focused on just sports and school. That's it. So it was probably about 8-9 months of very minimal training. And I was able to keep decent size. Like I never lost a crap ton of weight, but I was for sure not making progress. And once I finished that phase, once I finished high school, I was like, all right, it's time to go full throttle with lifting. And so I quote unquote bulked after my basketball season ended. And again, just put on more fat. I wasn't really tracking calories, doing cardio. I was just used to burning so much through sports. So when that wasn't there, I put on weight fast. And after a couple months, I was like, oh, like we need to cut. Like we need to slow this down. We need to go on a proper cut, because I still sort of had that fat from 2020 lingering on my body, and I really just wanted to get it off. So one day, I think I remember the exact day, it was May 25th, 2022. I was like, I'm just gonna cut. And I did. It took me about 5 months. It was very unstructured. I was kind of just going. I didn't have an end goal or anything. I just wanted to lose the weight, and I lost the weight. But then right after that, I gained it all back when I decided to bulk, because I would take things to extreme. I was like, all right, I'm cutting. Let me like really push this to the limit until I can't tolerate it. And then I was like, all right, it's time to bulk. Let me push this to the limit. So I just gained a bunch of fat back. After that, I kind of just went through a couple cycles of bulking and cutting. The bulks wouldn't be too crazy. It'd be like 5 to 10 pounds, and the cuts would be like 5-ish pounds. So I'd always hover around that like 210 to 220 range. That was sort of my range for body weight. And then after going through a few more cuts and bulks, I finally reached sort of a steady point in 2024 after I was like, all right, I'm done dirty bulking. Like there's no need for me to put on this much weight. It's not really adding that much value to my life or my physique. So I decided, I'm just gonna cut and make this sort of the last time I really pack on weight. After that, I've sort of just been, I wouldn't say main gaining, because I definitely go in some stages of, put on a little bit of mass, but not as crazy as before. My most recent cut earlier this year was awesome, because that's the leanest I've ever gotten. It wasn't crazy lean, but for me, it was, and it was fun. It was cool to see. It was cool to push my limits. But that was pretty much my story wrapped up into 5 minutes. And some things that I want to share with you just have to do with my journey, because I definitely did make plenty of mistakes that you could easily avoid. And there's so many things that I wouldn't say I wish I did differently, because I'm glad for everything that happened in my journey, and it's obviously still going. But there are some things that I could have done different if I wanted to see quicker progress and better progress. So first, I'll just go over some things that I did well. I've always been extremely focused on intensity. Like ever since 2020, intensity has never been something I've pushed off. That's never been an issue for me. So when I am in the gym, when I am training, intensity is always there. And I really pride myself on that, because in my mind, I think, why would you show up to the gym if you're just gonna half-ass it? Like, it's honestly better to just go home. Like, why would you show up and then decide you don't want to give it everything? Like, you're wasting your time. So intensity has always been up for me. Something else that I really pride myself on is not drinking. My friends, my family know that I don't really drink. It's definitely only a handful of times throughout the year that I drink. And that's really just been foundation for me when it comes to muscle growth, because I knew when I was 16 that alcohol is just horrible for muscle growth. And I can't necessarily quantify how much of my physique is because I didn't drink. If you see what I'm saying, like, what would my physique look like if I did drink? I don't know. But what I do know is that I haven't been drinking and I've seen good progress with my physique. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Plus, there's a list of other downsides to drinking that I won't get into on this video. But yeah, drinking has always been sort of off limits for me. I've never indulged in that sense. Like, I genuinely think the last time I was really drunk was, like, I don't know, 2 years ago maybe. I remember I woke up, I felt like shit, and I was like, yeah, I'm just not doing this again. That's that. So that's something that I think I did well and I do well. That's definitely, I would say, a value of mine and a core principle to how I live my life. Something else has been good sleep. With alcohol, it's sort of a non-negotiable. Like, sleep is when you grow. So I've always been prioritizing my sleep. I would say as I've gotten busier, it's for sure gotten tougher, I guess. So instead of getting like 8.5, sometimes I'm pushing 7.5, 7, but it's still a conscious thought in my head, like, all right, we gotta get good sleep. Like, I really try each night to get good sleep. And of course, you have your nights where you just don't sleep well. That happens. You're human. But it's a priority for me, and I'm always going to keep it that way, because again, it's a building block. If you try and live your life on poor sleep, everything else is going to be at like 50% efficiency. So get your sleep. Then I would say the last thing is pretty solid consistency. That's kind of just in the same realm of intense training. When I was training, so like excluding my senior year of high school, I've always been really consistent. Like, I don't just take days off because I don't feel like it. If I'm taking a day off, it's because I'm traveling, I have stuff that's more important, because yes, crazy, right? There are things that are more important than going to the gym sometimes. Like, if I gotta study or I got something to do, yeah, that's gonna take priority. It's okay. But I don't just skip workouts because I don't feel like it. So now into some things that I could have done better. There are so many, but I would say the most notable things that I definitely could have done better. Number one is like gaining so much weight on these bulks. I think it's fun. It is fun. But when it comes time to lose that weight, you realize you're like, geez, this is way harder to lose than I thought. It's way harder to lose the weight than put on the weight. Bulking is fun. Don't get me wrong. I love it. Like, you just eat, you're training, you feel so good, so much energy, you're so strong. But if you're doing it to a point where you're putting on unnecessary fat, I promise you're kind of setting yourself up for failure in the future, because ultimately you will want to get leaner to reveal your progress. So you have to keep that future you in mind during your bulk so that you're making rational decisions. Also, extending cuts for no reason. Again, my brain works like we have to push this to the limits and just go as hard as we can. And that's not always applicable. Like, there's no reason that you should be cutting for 5 months unless you're like pretty overweight. But in my case, like, there was no need to cut for 5 months during my first cut, because it did eventually start to really affect my mood, my energy, my focus. I could not focus. I was just grumpy. And so once you reach that point, you have to evaluate, like, is this worth it? I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not stepping on stage. Why am I suffering like someone who is? You know, because that's a whole nother realm that I totally respect. But if you're sort of just like concerned about your health and you just want to look and feel good, pushing those extremes is not necessary. Another thing is definitely eating more whole foods. I've been doing a very good job over the last 2 years of really prioritizing whole foods, but it's super convenient when you're in a pinch to rely on processed stuff. I still do it. Like, I'm definitely not the cleanest eater. I would say 80-20 definitely does reflect my eating habits. In my earlier stages, I think just really prioritizing clean whole foods where you can like almost see the macronutrients on your plate. Like you have your beef, that's your protein, your rice, that's your carbs, your avocado, that's your fat. Like having more meals like that earlier in my lifting career would have definitely been beneficial. Not necessarily in terms of the visual aspects of my physique, but just like how you feel. Those processed foods have so many more negative effects than you think with your digestion, your skin health, your energy, like everything. So that's definitely something that I'm honestly still working on. Like it's so difficult in 2025 to just completely avoid all processed foods and all that, which I'm not saying that you or I should, because there's for sure room for that, and I obviously do indulge sometimes. Just being more conscious, that's really what it's all about. Then lastly, understanding the balance between building my physique and life. That is something I didn't understand during my first couple years of training, just because I was so focused on getting big, gaining muscle, improving my physique. Sometimes I would lose sight of what life was. And again, I don't blame myself because I was a teenager just like trying to get jacked. It's like very common to sort of have this like tunnel vision and you don't think anything else matters. I definitely think I could have practiced more balanced habits, and I'm learning that more now, and honestly everybody learns that as they get older. When you think big picture, you realize that this training and this dieting is supposed to support your lifestyle and not be your lifestyle. And I know if you follow my page, all you see is my fitness stuff and my diet and my training, all that. So you might think that is my entire life, but it's not. So I think when I was younger, I made it my entire life to some degree. And again, there was a time and place for that. Moving forward, if you're somebody who's completely enveloped in fitness and your physique and all that, just understand that there really is more to life. Always preach balance, because there's no need for extremes if you just want to be healthy, like the way that you look and feel, and live a good life. There's really no need to push extremes. So, closing thoughts on what I want you to take away from this video to maybe speed up your process and not make some of the mistakes that I made. Number one, doing research and seeking help will save you so much time. You don't realize how much time you waste when you're doing something wrong until you realize like the right way to do it. That sounds stupid, but you know what I'm saying? Like if you don't understand something, look it up, ask somebody, like really do your research when it comes to this stuff, because there's so much out there and you might think you're completely on track doing something the right way. There's so many people who are misguided. Like I can't blame them because that's just how it is, but there's so much misinformation and there's so many myths, especially when it comes to diet and fitness, that it's really easy to get caught up. So do your research. You are putting so much energy into whatever your goal is. You want to make sure that that's paying off, because it's totally possible to think you're putting in energy to something. In reality, you're not really getting results, and that's the worst place to be. Another thing, this kind of ties into what I was saying earlier, prioritize the way you feel over the way you look. Your looks are always going to change, and you can always lose fat. You can always gain muscle. Like it's really not the end of the world. If you are like suffering to maintain a certain physique, it's not worth it. It is totally okay to be at like 3% higher body fat if that means that you just operate better and you have more energy than trying to suffer because you think that like being lean is law. That's not the case. I think that's a very sort of immature, not in like an insulting way, but it is sort of an immature perspective, because in reality, like nobody really cares about the way that you look. It's only you, and it's all in your head. So you want to prioritize the way that you feel good, and you like the way you look to some extent. Obviously nobody's going to be perfect, then you're golden. And lastly, within fitness, I lift, I'm doing triathlon training, but find something that excites you and challenges you, and something that you want to see progress with. This doesn't have to be just lifting. This could be running. You want to decrease your mile time, powerlifting, a sport, like genuinely anything that really challenges you, but you also enjoy. Because again, we talk about sweet spots. That is the sweet spot. You don't want to just suffer doing 12-3-30 on the treadmill when it's just so mundane and boring to you. Find something that excites you. If you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, working out and taking care of yourself, you want it to be enjoyable to some extent. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to sustain it. That's all I got for this video. It's honestly cool sort of just reflecting and talking about my journey. But I have a long list of things I wish I did better, things I did right, all of that stuff. I just wanted to share some of the most relevant ones, in my opinion, with you so that it can hopefully inspire you, help you out, or whatever it is to get you along on your journey. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.